just read, I mean, here's my experience. Well, what I experienced as she was reading that is the knowledge, and then the experience of what that means, which are really two different things in some sense, at least in the processing of what we experience as we comprehend that message. Are you following me? Because there have been times in my life when I knew that stuff, but I wasn't having that experience. And then there are other times when I was having the experience, so I didn't understand what it was I was having. And so what that says to me is that by the way, you don't mind if I don't stand behind you?
No.
Okay. And by the way, if you want to know, I'm 5 foot 19 inches. You do the math.
Okay.
And everybody asks me, how tall are you? So what I have found, or in my understanding, is that we live in two worlds. A world of illusion and a world of reality. The problem is, which is which? How do you know which one is, what part of it is illusion, what part of it is reality? And that's what we're trying to figure out. So in some ways, we feel lost. How many of you ever felt lost in this?
Oh boy.
Okay. Even with all this awareness that we apparently are experiencing, and all this knowledge that we have, and we come together like this, and we learn so much, and then we have these different experiences, but there's still this feeling of being lost. Well, this is what I want to talk about today, about how it is that we can figure out or see where it is that we're going. First thing, where do we come from? Just the other day, recently, I was coaching with someone, and I asked this lady the question, because she was, as spiritual as she was asking about death. And because her mother was near death, and she was trying to figure out what this really was, what this meant. And Spirit came through me in my coaching session, and I said, and you've heard this before, I said, what are you? Are you a human having a spiritual experience, a human being having a spiritual experience? Or are you a spiritual being having a human experience? And just look at her face like, oh my God, I do not know the answer to that. And just by the fact that I was asking her the questions, she was dumbfounded to not have the answer, because she, of course, it didn't take her very long before she realized that I am a spiritual being having human experience. Now, I assume you've all heard this before, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. But to her, this was revolutionary. And of course, immediately she begins to tear up and to realize for the first time that her beginning did not begin when she came into physical form. And yet our egos have this way of telling us that's the way it was. we still want to believe that, well, it all began when I was born, and so we identify with that in our rearing and our growing up and so forth, and all of a sudden we have this moment of awakening that we realize that we're truly a spiritual being. We're not just a human having a spiritual experience. Now, I have to confess, I come from a background of the Christian uprearing. And back in the early 70s, I was part of the Jesus movement, and let me tell you, it was a beautiful experience for me. It was a very powerful moment. I literally saw miracles. I saw manifestations of things that I cannot explain, even to this day. So God in the Spirit was moving, and it was not inside of a church. If you know anything about the Jesus movement, we didn't go to church. We had groups like this, or in homes and wherever, and we didn't have anybody, we didn't have any particular leaders, in a sense. We did, but it was spontaneous, let's just put it that way, okay. So it was a spiritual experience for me, and I was raised in church, so I knew the Bible, I knew the teachings of Jesus and so forth, but it didn't come alive until I had this downloading, which I'm sure you all can relate to. When I got this download of Spirit, all of a sudden things become, I was awakened. When I tell people about that experience, I say the grass was greener, the sky was bluer, it was like everything came alive. And I hope you can relate to that. It's still with me today. I'm 60 years old now this year, and it's still with me today, even more so than ever. Nothing from that past have I lost, because it's part of my awakening. So now I'm stuck between this, in this experience. In the last 4 years or so, I've come to a deeper understanding as to this illusion and this reality thing. So there's sort of a paradox going on here. So as we're walking this path, or as we're on this journey, this is where we are. So we feel like we're, in some sense, I feel like I'm a stranger in a strange land. I don't know if you ever get that feeling. And especially when you go out in the world and you start talking to people about some of the stuff that we share here, they think, who are you? Where are you coming from? You know, who are you weird? You're crazy. We don't understand, because they cannot relate to what it is that you are aware of because of where their mentality. So they're stuck in the illusion, as we might say. And yet at the same time, we know we have these physical beings. We have this physical, solid material, the third dimension in which we are living in. So to be in this and not of this, you follow what I'm saying? It is a challenge. And I assume that you, from what I understand in what you've been taught here, you understand that as we came from source into physical form, there is a separation that takes place, okay? And as we come into form, when we came to physical being, we come into this world that has this solid material, and there's a plurality to it. Now I'm talking a little bit of science. I'm not a science major, but there is, you know, the electromagnetic fields. You follow what I'm saying? And if you know anything about healing and some of this stuff, that's what this energy is. It's part of the electromagnetic field into physical form. So there is this plurality that goes on, so positive, negative. Okay, you follow me? All right. The only problem is, with that comes this duality in our consciousness. So now in our duality, with this, we see good and evil, you know, bad and good, you know, wrong, you know, all that. We get caught up into it, and the ego trips up on this. It just thinks it's so cool, and it wants to get all caught up into the drama of this conflict that's going on in the world. And oh my God, you know what I'm talking about. Watch TV or go on the internet and listen to what everybody's saying. You know, well, everybody, we're caught in the drama, and yet we are in this world, but not of this world. That's the challenge. So we have to dissect what is the illusion and what is the reality of this. Now the answer, where is the answer? It's within you. Even what I'm sharing with you right now, I'm sharing with you my truth of what this is. So I'm speaking my truth, which I encourage you all to do the same thing too. But you have to understand and dissect what the difference is between this illusion and this reality. You have to do that yourself, individually. No one can do it for you. I mean, you've had people tell you what is the illusion and what's reality. You've had people indoctrinate you. We all have. That's how we learn. And then we take that information and we say, okay, do I want to own that? Do I want to make that part of me? Is it part of me? Do I want to accept that? Does my heart resonate with that? Or my mind does. My mind thinks that's really cool. You know, you ever found yourself get tripped up on something that you thought, man, this is really cool, and after a while you go, wait a second, maybe it's not what I think it is. I know I've had to go through that process many times throughout my spiritual walk. Over the last 14 years, and I mentioned, well, the last 4 years, but in the last 14 years, I had to do this breaking away from my Christian dogma. And it was very, very difficult, a long process for me to go through. And not that I don't appreciate the teaching of Jesus, because I do. But I now understand the challenge that Jesus had in trying to communicate to the people of his day. Oh my God. Their level of consciousness was very, very limited. And therefore, what we have today as Christianity is obviously a distortion of what he truly taught. Now, this is my opinion. I don't know what your opinion is, but that's my opinion. And yet, I still pray and connect with the Christ consciousness. Okay, so it's not like I've divorced myself completely. So if somebody were to nitpick me, I would say I'm a Christian mystic. That's what I would probably end up saying. Of course, they would say, "What's that?" And I say, "Well, what do you want to be?" I mean, it's I know what I think it is. You know, so if you want to label me, you can call me that. So, the challenge that we have as we go through this experience is trying to understand what this experience is. And in the world, in the scientific sense, science always use forms of measurement, right? You understand? I'm like I said, I'm not a scientist, but I know that's how they show proof of something, whether it's real or not, to them scientifically. They measure it. So they have these devices or theories or techniques in which they measure science. You follow what I'm saying? The amount of oxygen in the air, the amount of blood in, plasma and blood in your human body, and all these, it's all measured. Your blood pressure, your temperature, you know what I'm saying? These are all measurements, for measurements. But when it comes to the metaphysical world, what are the measuring tools? The whole science community has poo-pooed everything that we are experiencing because they didn't have the tools to measure it. Okay, you follow what I'm saying? The tools are there. The measuring devices are there. Some we are just now beginning to understand. Some have been around for a long time. And they were hidden. They were kept secret from us. And they're just now being brought out into the open. And so in this challenge between to understand the difference between reality and illusion, we need to become more aware of these measuring tools. Okay? And your example of frequency is right. Because what is this universe, what is this whole world, universe, made up of?
Energy.
Vibration, energy, light, color, what? What else? Anything else that comes to your mind? It expresses itself in the invisible form. It comes into physical, right? And so these measuring tools that we want to be using are probably going to be coming from the vibration, frequency, light, those type of things. Now, once again, I go back to the human body and to our consciousness. The connection between our consciousness and our human body. Now, I want to introduce you to what's called the Enneagram. Now, this afternoon, I'm going to be doing a workshop here on Enneagram. And you're saying, well, what is that? Well, I'll just real quickly, I'll just tell you, the Enneagram stands for 9 points. I mean, 9 points is what it stands for. It is a tool of, well, let me just say first, it is the self-discovery tool. And that's what I'm going to be sharing about this afternoon. It has to do with your personality, because each and every one of you has a different type of personality, but there are 9 types in which we come from. So, the Enneagram is more like a map. Now let's talk about maps for a little bit, okay? On the way here, I'm coming across your bridge of 295, and as I'm coming across the bridge this morning, I could not see the other side. There was a big fog coming across. All I saw was this huge cloud. But I was following this road, and I did have a map that was telling me, but if I didn't know that road hadn't been there, that bridge had not been there, and if I didn't have a map, I would have been lost to get here. And it would have been a little bit freaky for me to go across that lake, or that, is that a river?
It's a river.
To cross that unless I knew what was on the other side. Here, you follow what I'm saying? Even though I've never been on this side. You follow me? We experience the same thing in our lives. There's this fog out there that we're walking through sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's very foggy. And when we have that fog, it helps to have a map. It helps to know where you are and where it is you're going, right? Okay, now it just so happens I brought a map with me. I don't know if some of you remember these.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
people
yes.
got these GPS things in the car that talk to them and tell them where to go now. But back when I was young, this is what we used. And these are very powerful tools. Maps are extremely powerful. Now this is Central Florida. I live down right here. I live right down here, off of 95.
Wow.
Orlando's over here, somewhere. Yeah. You guys are way up there. Yeah. So this is a very powerful tool. Now there's only one problem. This is a great tool But the first thing you have to know is what I just pointed out to you. What did I just say?
You're here.
I'm here. Yeah, you have to know where you're at on the map. That's why when you go to the rest stop, it says you are here. Because if you don't know where you are, the map's no good to you.
That's right.
So first you have to know where you are. And then you can move or go where you want to go according to what your description of what you're looking for. And that's what the map for. And the other thing about the cool thing about the map is the people who made this map, they've been there. They've in other words, you understand what I'm saying? Before you can make a map, someone has to go out and experience where that is. So, and they have to know the dimensions and all that stuff. You follow me?
Gotta go survey it.
Well, these things were hard to fold up when you were in a car driving, I'll tell you. That's why it's so nice, isn't it, though?
Mine never got folded up.
All right, so anyway, we need these maps in our consciousness. You follow what I'm saying? To tell us where we're going, where we are and where we're going. And that's what the Enneagram is. The Enneagram is a map that tells you who you are and a little bit about where you're going. And let me just real quickly tell you the reason why. Because it's a personality assessment. And a while ago when I mentioned the fact that you came from the invisible into physical, and by the way, guess who sent you?
We did.
Huh?
We did. We sent ourselves.
We sent ourselves. In agreement with the collective, as we just said a while ago, if you understand what's being said. You sent yourself here in this now moment to be here for this very experience. If you're not aware of that, that's okay. But you're here with me. I'm very much aware of the fact as to why I'm here. And that I sent myself, and as some of you have just said, you sent yourself here.
I
Okay?
must have been crazy.
Definitely not.
That's true. The ego says, "What? Who asked me if I was supposed to come here at this now moment? Why now?" But that's our ego that's talking to us because it doesn't understand. Because the ego doesn't understand spirit at all. But yet, in our higher selves, it says, "Oh yes, you sent yourself here in this now moment." So that's why it's so important that we awaken to our higher selves and understand who we truly are. And that's what the Enneagram does. The Enneagram pretty much gives you a description of this personality that you selected. Yes, you selected this personality when you came to this physical form. You selected your body. You said, "Well, I could have done a better job." But you know what? It's yes and no. That's not really true. You selected this body, you selected your personality to come this world for us to serve a purpose. However that was going to happen. Okay? You may not be aware of that, but that's what the Enneagram is going to help you do. It's going to help you to accept yourself. The Enneagram, let me just tell you an example of what the Enneagram can do. The Enneagram is going to tell you several things. It's going to tell you some very positive things and a few of the what we call negative. Negative referring, and here it is, this is that plurality I was talking about a while ago. Negative in the sense that it's going to show you your biggest fear. Once you know what your personality type is, it'll identify your biggest fear. And you will, for the first time, see a picture as to why you are driven by fear. But once you know what is fear? Fear is a part of the illusion. Once you know what that fear is, then you can say, okay, that's part of the illusion. So now I get to the map of the Enneagram is going to show me how to separate that out. So, but one of the positive things is it shows you your gifts and strengths. Because each particular type has a natural gifts and strengths. And you know what? You don't have to go out there and learn it. No. There's no education. It's already in you. It's already a part of you. All you got to do is find it. Just find it within you. When you do, let me tell you, gang, the lights come on. I mean, this afternoon, I'm looking at your beautiful faces right now and the energy I'm feeling from you right now. But this afternoon, I'm going to see your faces transform. Because it happens, I've done this for hundreds and hundreds of people, this workshop I'm going to do for this afternoon. And I've seen people just like, whoa, when you walk out of here this afternoon, you'll not be the same person. Because the Enneagram, and it's not what I'm going to do, it's not just because of the knowledge, it's the now moment experience that you have in the awakening of who you are. Once you know who you are on the Enneagram, then you will begin to see things completely different. Another thing that the Enneagram does is it will It will show you how you are compelled when you're feeling strong, and what your desires are, and your hopes, and it almost is, it's part of your mission. But it also shows you what happens when you're under stress and you feel insecure. You're compelled, and once you know your type, it's consistent, okay? But you remember, you chose that for a reason. So the reason I think that the Enneagram is so powerful is because what it does is it shows you which way you want to go. When I'm insecure and I'm under stress, I act out a particular way. And I can distinctly describe to you how I act out because I know what my type is. And I can, once you know your type is, I can tell you how that is. In fact, when we do the workshop, you're going to get this workbook. And in this workbook, there's a lot of diagrams, descriptions, and so forth that are going to help you understand this map that I'm talking about, okay? So, and it will actually describe to you how it is you act out these stress points and the secure points. You follow what I'm saying? So the reason I'm bringing it up, the reason why I found this thing so valuable, and I discovered this about 14 years ago, the reason I find this so valuable is because you get to make a choice. You get to decide where you want to go and how you want to act out. If you want to stay in the stress, that's fine. Go ahead and have that experience if that's what you want. I mean, I don't like going down. Sometimes I do find myself sliding down in there, and I go, okay, here I am. What am I going to learn in this experience now? I'm under stress. I'm feeling like here's what I'm doing. This is how I think. This is how I treat other people when I'm under stress. But once I know I'm there, I get to make a choice to how long I want to stay there. When you don't know that you're under stress, you stay there a lot. And you think, well, that's just what life has given me. That's just where I'm stuck. Because that's what this world does. You get stuck between the illusion and the reality. But when you with the Enneagram, it's going to show you the illusion of that stress and the fear. Okay, so now I can say, okay, I want to bring myself out of that, and then you get to understand that if you move in this direction and you follow the map, you find that the map will actually show you where you want to go. Whoa! How'd that show up on there? Now, what you just saw here is a little bit of a magic trick. And as you didn't hear it, no, I am a professional magician, so that's what I do. That's what I did for a living for almost 30-some years. I still do. The map. Back to the map. We need those measuring tools. We need to have some. Now, I'm going to tell you about the Enneagram. This thing, they really don't know exactly where it came from. This thing is so old. They know it's well over 2,000 years old. They believe that it came from the Sufi Indians, but the Sufi Indians don't claim it. It wasn't in print until the last 50-some years. A guy named Gurdjieff, if you ever heard of him, had a lot to do with the way this came together. And this is the symbol right here. And the reason this is a symbol for it is because this is the energy pattern that the Enneagram creates. Now, I'm coming back to what our gentleman said here about frequency. Everything has frequency to it. Everything. This plant does. I do. My different organs do. The water that we have in this room has frequency. And there's a pattern to the frequency. Have you ever seen on YouTube where they take that plate and they lay the plate down, they put the salt on it, and then they put the vibration, and it makes a pattern? Have you all seen this? Raise your hand if you've seen it. Okay, if you've not seen it, I encourage you to get a hold of the video. It's on YouTube. So they'll play a frequency, like a tone, and the sand will create a pattern, and it'll stay a hold in that pattern because the vibration of the metal, and then they change the tone to another tone, and it goes to a different pattern. Okay. And they change to another tone, and it goes to a different pattern. And then when they go back to the one they started off with, it goes back to the same pattern again, because every frequency, every tone has a distinct pattern to it. You follow me? Everything has a... In fact, science alone knows that there are patterns, because we can visually see them in the world, in nature, and the way things are designed. And the more we have been able to create and measure the ability of seeing these patterns, be it micro or macro, outer space or down to the minute parts of the atom, they see these patterns are consistent. And they're just now beginning to understand the patterns. But Spirit has been revealing to us these patterns for a long time. And I'm just now beginning to understand some of these patterns. You know, sacred geometry, if you know anything about that, you know, the flower of life and all those things. This pattern right here, I will share with you, without going into too much detail this afternoon, I will share with you how it moves, because there's a movement in this pattern, and you can't see right there, but there are 9 points, and those are the 9 type of the personality types. And we're all connected, as she was sharing earlier in the collective. We're all connected in this. That's what's so cool about this, is that we get to understand how it is that we're connected and how is it we relate to one another. Because the whole idea is for us, our understanding of the Enneagram is to help one another. And that's what we do. Once, it won't do any good right now for me to tell you what my type is. Once you understand my type, you understand why it is I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Because my particular type is, when I'm secure, I love to teach and share from my heart. Okay, I'm motivated by my heart. There are others all of you have different roles, and that's the neat thing about it, because in the illusion and reality world, you understand it really is just a play. It's a movie that we're experiencing. That's why we're so attracted to drama and movies and so forth. We love watching movies because life itself is a movie. And you all have a role to play in the movie. And it comes down to, once you understand your personality type, you will begin to understand what your role is. You'll go, oh, that's why I do that. That's why I feel compelled to do that. You'll understand it for the first time. In fact, here's something interesting. I've attended the International Conference for Enneagram twice over the last 10 years. And one lady has written a book, written a book about personality types in movies. So he takes all the 9 types Enneagrams and he puts them into them, and he identifies the 9 types in the personality types in the characters in the movies. And guess what? The movies that stay with the character of the Enneagram type are the most successful movies. The ones that break character are the ones that fail. So whatever your favorite movie is, whatever your favorite TV show is, if the characters stay in their Enneagram type, it's become successful, because that is the pattern of life. And intuitively, we pick up on that. See, those patterns are within our consciousness. They're in our consciousness. So if you want to understand how, especially if you're a writer and you're writing stories, you want to understand the Enneagram because you want to stay within the character. When I say character, it's not really about their traits as much as it is about how they perceive the world. So what happens is we all come from the same source, if you all understand that. But what happens is when we took on our personality type through the Enneagram, it was like a pair of glasses that we put on. And that's how we perceive the world. So each one of the 9 types sees the world just a little bit differently. But yet we're all related to one another, and I'll explain this afternoon how that relates, okay? How many of you saw the movie The Matrix? Okay, if you've not seen The Matrix, I strongly encourage you to go back to it. Now it's not just one movie, it's actually 3 movies put together, okay? The first one does, if you just watch the first one, it'll get you started, and then you can kind of go from there if you want to watch the rest of the other 2. But if you understand the concept of the Matrix, it's what I was referring to a while ago about stuck between the illusion and the reality. That's what the movie is really about. Now, there's a lot of drama, a lot of fighting, and all that stuff in the movie too. But the crux of the movie is the fact that we're asleep, and there's an awakening moment until we come to reality as to what the Matrix is. The Matrix is the illusion. It's the world as we see it out here. Not Mother Earth, but the spirit, the world spirit. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. In the movie, those of you who saw it, Morpheus, who is awakened, is trying to talk to Neo, who is in the sleep state. And he's speaking. What happens is Morpheus goes into the Matrix and is talking to Neo and says, Neo, you're not happy. And the reason why you're not happy is because you don't see where you are, that you're asleep and you're stuck in the Matrix. Now, there was a point in your life when you have heard the same message, I'm sure. And I'm sure there's a point in your life where you've shared that same message with other people. they say to you, why is it that I can't be happy like you? Why is it I have to be miserable? And why is it that I feel the way I do? Why can't I understand things like you do? And you say to them, it's because you don't know who you are. Sometimes that's all I have to say. You just don't know who you are. And it goes back to what I started this thing off with, that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. You think that you began when you were born into this world, but that's part of the illusion. So Morpheus is telling Neo, he says, look, he says, I'm inviting you to come into this awakening experience. He says, and he shares with him his message, and he has 2 pills in his hand. He says, now, after he gets done talking, he says, you can take the blue pill, and everything that I've said to you up to this point, you'll go back to sleep, and you'll not remember, and you can live however you want to believe, whatever you want to believe, is what he says. Because it'll just be sleepy time. You know? So we go back to that period. But he says, if you take the red pill, what did he say? Do you remember what he said? Anybody remember from the movie? He says, if you take the red pill, he says, I will take you down the rabbit hole, and I'll show you how far down it goes. And if you think about what he said, that comes from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
She goes down the rabbit hole, and she goes into this world that, oh my God! And if you saw the movie, What the Bleep?
What the bleep.
And the sequel to it, which was down the rabbit hole, that was what it was called. If you've not seen these movies, go get them. I don't. Do you have them access to somewhere?
Some we do,
I'm
yeah.
sure you got access to these movies. The What the Bleep and Down the Rabbit Hole explains an awful lot of the scientific side of consciousness and the awakening process, and using quantum physics, which is a science. Okay. I think it's very powerful. It really helped me in my awakening state, okay? So, get a hold of that movie too. But anyway, the rabbit hole, he said, you take the red pill and you go down the rabbit hole.
All right.
I made that, thought that was pretty cool. So in some sense, that's what you're doing here. That's why you keep coming back here, because you're going further and further down the rabbit hole, and you're finding out what's underneath the ground, what's underneath the surface, what's going on, and you're coming through this awakening state, you know, and there will come a point where you come into a state of what I call the awakened mind. Come back this afternoon, and I'll tell you what that is.